Hello, my name is Desiree Cooper, and I am a big fan of Mary Kay Zuravleff. She writes amazing books, and they take you into whole different worlds every time she puts pen to paper. Her latest, that's just coming out, available everywhere, is called American Ending. The reason it's called that is actually revealed early in the book on page 4, where a Russian immigrant family has moved to a coal mining town in Pennsylvania. And when the kids go to bed, the mom asks, "Do you want a story with a Russian ending or an American ending?" What she means by that is that often the Russian fairy tales could be very grim and sometimes full of fear and horror and threatening, dangerous things. You weren't always guaranteed a happily ever after. But her feeling was that in America, things were different, and American endings didn't always have to end in tragedy. Well, I fell into this book. It takes you to a whole nother time and place, and the detail is amazing. And even though it had nothing to do with my family and how my family experienced their welcome to America, I found some really amazing similarities. The main character here is Yelena, and she's the first person in this Russian immigrant family to be born in America. She has a lot of pride in being American born. And for her, that's a label of hope. That means that the American dream was in her reach. And you'll have to read the book to find out whether or not she gets that American dream. But along the way, she marries a man who has a weakened lungs because he hasn't had access to health care in his whole life and they've lived in poverty. Well, to compound the problems, he goes and works in the mines and he works in industrial places. And one day he's coughing and coughing and coughing, and they fear that he has tuberculosis. And they suggest that he goes to the doctor, and he doesn't want to go because he says, "What are you going to do? I still have to go to work. All you're going to do is tell me that I might be sick, and then I'd be forced to not be able to go to work and support my family." He doesn't even want to know. Well, I found that to be so interesting because in my family, my grandfather worked in the work projects administration during the Great Depression. And what he did is he helped create the highway system in the state of Virginia, where I'm living now. And during that process, his lungs were severely compromised, just like Victor's was in the book, and he contracted tuberculosis. And because healthcare was unavailable for tuberculosis patients who were Black in the rural areas of Virginia, the county actually imported a little hut and built it in his backyard and isolated him in his backyard because he was sick. Now, I did some research, and this is a picture that I found from the Library of Congress. It's an example of the kind of huts that they put in the backyard of people who were either banned because of discrimination from going to sanatoriums or were too poor to be able to go. And my grandfather isolated there in his own backyard in what felt like to him to be like a doghouse. He couldn't go in the house except for when everyone was gone. And he ended up committing suicide in that house in his own backyard. Very Russian ending. So I related very much to some of the tragedies and challenges of the immigrant family. And I do have to say that whether or not we had a Russian ending or an American ending in our family depended on which generation you looked at. And here I am, healthy, with access to care, thank goodness, and growing generations of descendants from my grandfather who committed suicide because he didn't have access to care. I think that we're on our way to an American ending. And I pray that in generations going forward, these kinds of differences will no longer determine whether or not you have a Russian ending or American ending to the story of your family. Read the book. You're going to find so much commonality, and you're going to learn so much about a population of people that you maybe never thought about before. American Ending, it's available everywhere from my dear, dear friend, Mary Kay Zuravleff. Sorry, Mary Kay, I mispronounced your name. She's a great writer. Get the book. I love it.